Today at noon, the Supreme Court making a major blow against President Trump. What the president is saying after a shocking vote that strikes down most of his imposed tariffs. Plus, we're checking in with local lawmakers. What's on deck during Oregon's legislative session and how both parties are trying to work together. Also ahead, the Winter Olympics are nearing its final days, but Oregon still has some athletes competing. We check in with a Bend native in his final run coming up. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. I'm Blair Best. Before we get into our top story, let's head to Mount Hood, where all eyes are on the men's free ski halfpipe. The Y-East Mountain Academy is cheering on alum and Team USA's Nick Gepper. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, how Gepper and a Bend native Hunter Hess did in the final run. Now to our top story this afternoon. The Supreme Court this morning striking down most of President Donald Trump's tariffs. The court ruled the president exceeded his authority when imposing sweeping tariffs using a law reserved for a national emergency. The 6-3 ruling is a rare setback for the administration at the Supreme Court, which has a 6-3 conservative majority. Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield calling the decision a victory, saying, in quote, "At a time when we should all be working together to do everything in our power to keep the cost of living down for working families, the president tried to sidestep Congress to increase prices on groceries, utilities, and basic everyday necessities." Meanwhile, President Trump saying this in response.
The Supreme Court's ruling on tariffs is deeply disappointing, and I'm ashamed of certain members of the court, absolutely ashamed, for not having the courage to do what's right for our country.
The president could seek to reimpose the tariffs using other laws. Well, some federal funding could come to Oregonians impacted by the December floods. Governor Tina Kotek is requesting a major disaster declaration from President Trump. She's asking for help for 9 counties from Lincoln to Hood River and statewide access to the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program to help fund projects to reduce future disaster impacts. The string of storms from December 15th through the 21st caused more than $15 million in losses. Well, Oregon lawmakers are halfway through this legislative session, and we want to highlight some of the bills they're looking to pass. One would increase penalties for making a false report called swatting. So under it, hoaxes like a fake active shooter or bomb threats would be classified as felonies. It passed the House overwhelmingly on Thursday. The second is House Bill 4091 to protect state authority over the Oregon National Guard. The bill limits when the federal government can mobilize the Oregon National Guard without the governor's consent. That bill also passed, but it is worth noting that this session has been marked by sharp disagreements. For example, on Wednesday, all Republican senators were a no-show over a Democratic-sponsored bill related to the controversial transportation package.
Really, they want to disenfranchise Oregon voters. So by moving this election bill through, they are ignoring a whole host of statutes related to the ability of Oregonians to weigh in via the voters pamphlet to get their issues, their ideas into the voters pamphlet.
That bill is set to be introduced today. Okay, turning now to what appears to be more trouble for former Oregon Congresswoman turned Labor Secretary Lori Chavez-DeRemer. Her husband is now accused of sexual assault. That's according to the New York Times. At least 2 female staff members at the Labor Department reportedly told officials that Dr. Sean DeRemer sexually assaulted them at the workplace. You can see Dr. DeRemer sitting behind Secretary Chavez-DeRemer at her confirmation hearing last year. Now, sources say he is now barred from Labor Department headquarters. A police report lists the Department of Labor as the site of a sex abuse allegation, but names no suspect and notes no arrests or charges. The Times reports the claims came about during an internal probe into Secretary Chavez-DeRemer. Now, she's accused of a romantic relationship with a security officer and misusing funds for personal trips. Her lawyer denies those allegations. Dr. DeRemer is listed as an anesthesiologist in Portland. We have reached out to his office, as well as Secretary Chavez-DeRemer, for comment on these accusations, and we have not heard back yet. Well, in an update, Portland police have arrested the man accused of stalking and sexually harassing Portland Community College students 4 times over the last month. The latest incident happened Wednesday afternoon at a bus stop at 82nd and Division near the Southeast Portland campus. Police arrested 37-year-old Abdi Wahid Dahir Yusuf Thursday afternoon. Court records show he was arrested back in November for a similar incident at that same bus stop. He pleaded not guilty in that case. Okay, let's check in on the weather with Chris McGinnis. Chris, talk to us. What are you tracking for this weekend?
Well, we're tracking milder temperatures for sure, and also the return of low elevation rain and some wind as well. So we'll get to all of that. But first off, we still, believe it or not, have some snow cap on the top of Cascade Head out along the Oregon coast. This is up to about 1,200 feet or so from our Chinook Winds Casino Resort camera in Lincoln City. And I think also if you look closely, you're starting to see some of the dune grass there pick it up in the breeze, a sign of that increasing east breeze, which eventually all this together, along with moderating temperatures, will be a sign of what's coming in for the weekend. All right, radar over the last 3 hours showing a little smattering of green along the coast. There still are a couple of snow flurries in the highest terrain of the Coast Range and up in the Cascades as well. But by and large, the Willamette Valley and the I-5 corridor has been generally dry today. Again, outside of a couple of blips showing up on radar in the higher terrain, I expect us to remain dry, but fairly cloudy, and that's what the Wells Fargo sky camera shows us right now. It's 44 degrees at the airport. It's 43 in downtown with the south breeze picking up to 10, and that in Westland, perspective across the state. Nobody terribly cold at this lunchtime hour. 31, the cold spots on this map anyway, in Oregon, in John Day and Burns. The forecast for the rest of this afternoon, again, in and out of the cloud cover, mostly in the cloud cover with highs remaining in the mid-40s tonight. Sunset, 5:45. All right, so some rain, a little bit of wind in the weekend forecast, and then potentially, Blair, a really wet Monday. I don't know, I want to be looking past the weekend to Monday and rain, but we've got that in the forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
Okay, Chris, we'll see you then. Well, Bend native Hunter Hess took to the halfpipe this morning, hoping to give Team USA another gold medal. It was a tough couple of runs for Hess and almost every other skier. His third run, the strongest, making it through all his jumps without falling. Hess finished in 10th with a best score of 58. Meanwhile, Nick Gepper just missed out on a medal. This was from a watch party up at Y East Mountain Academy, where Gepper is an alum. He had a great second run, but had a tough fall on his last run and finished 4th. Another American, Alex Ferreira, taking home the gold. And as the Winter Olympics come to a close this weekend, Team USA will take the world stage one last time for the closing ceremony. And part of what they'll wear for the closing ceremony was started right here in Oregon. Corey Johnson takes a look at how a local wool company is woven into America's Olympic moment.
Jean Carver heads Maupin-based Shanico Wool Company, a group of ranches in the West. Her Olympic connection started with a call years ago.
I got a call from Ralph Lauren, product development researcher, looking for American yarn, and of course I had it.
Since then, Carver has worked with Ralph Lauren to provide wool products used for USA Winter Olympic uniforms for 5 games, including the 2026 Winter Games in Milan Cortina. Shanico Wool is part of the toggle coat, pants, ear flap hat, mittens, and sweaters for the opening ceremony, as well as the closing ceremony sweater and beanie.
It makes it more personal to us, more intimate to us, to have just a small part of supporting our athletes.
For Carver and the ranch families involved, the partnership goes beyond fashion.
It's humbling and it fills you with pride, and it connects us to our Olympic athletes, our sport legends for America. It connects us in a way we would never be otherwise.
She says the recognition from the major brand helps sustain ranching families and the land they depend on.
It ensures the future of our family on those lands, but it also ensures, with the health of the land, our collective future. But that work is kind of timeless and mostly forgotten. So when Ralph Lauren uses our name as a partner and elevates our work, they change our daily life in a way nothing else does.